Hey, everybody. We're back. Faith, grit, and grace. It's your girl, Tasha, alongside. And we're here today to start our first in a hopefully 3 episode entitled The Wait. So today we're going to be talking about the wait when wait turns to heartbreak. So welcome guys, welcome girls, welcome everybody. Pull up your chair, get your coffee, get your popcorn, whatever it is that you need, and just log in with us now at this time for Faith, Grit, and Grace. And let's just remind you guys that we're on all platforms now, YouTube, Spotify. If you go on our Instagram, I'm Camille Winspear, Andrina is...
Beautiful Drina.
Okay, and so you go onto our Insta, you click the link, it'll take you straight to the podcast. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if there's any topics that you want us to cover, let us know as well. So today we're going to jump into the first of a 3-part series entitled The Wait. And you might be wondering, what are they waiting on? So today we're going to talk about the wait. And the first part we're talking about is when the wait turns to heartbreak. All right. So we're going to get into it. And we're going to start off with, you know, my girl, Andrina and I, we love to watch the Future Wifey podcast because we are believing that we are going to be wives real soon.
Come on now.
Yes. So we speak it into being, okay?
Absolutely.
I even have a date, but I'm not going to put it out yet.
Oh.
All right.
Yes,
So,
girl.
Today we're talking about the wait, and it was inspired by a podcast that we'd seen with a young lady called Falon Bonner. And she had been waiting for her spouse, for her happily ever after. And she was able to meet and marry that person within 11 months. And unfortunately, that beautiful love story turned to heartbreak when her partner of almost 4 years of marriage died suddenly in a car accident. And so I sent it to my girl, Andrina. She watched it. And, you know, we both, it's hard out here in these streets trying to find somebody. And then you've prayed, you've waited, you've gone about it the right way. And unfortunately, it's not what you expected. So we're going to be talking about that today. And Drina has a story similar to Falon. And she is going to share with us. So she's going to be open, vulnerable, and transparent here today. Right. So we're going to give her that space, you know, and I'm sure there's some people who are out there who can echo the same sentiment. And so we love with you, we laugh with you, we grieve with you, we understand. And if this is a bit triggering, you know, you might want to be, have somebody there to support you as you listen, or maybe somebody to even call and talk to after you would have heard this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And reach out to us as well. We are more than happy to support and pray you through and signpost you to any services that we think might be helpful. And we will also put links to services as well, just in case you need some support after hearing some sad stories. But God is a restorer.
He is.
He's a healer.
He is.
And I wouldn't be here but by the grace of God. So I'm excited to share my testimony.
That's it. I'm reminded of the scripture that talks about he works all things, even the bad, out for our good. So I'm thinking, I've never had a spouse that died or a partner that died, but my mom died a few months ago. And one of the things I learned that, you know, even in grief, something good will come from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as we get ready to hear Andrina's take on her point in the wait, when the wait turns to heartbreak, or in her case, grief, just take us back. How did you meet your then?
Should we talk about Falon first? Because there was a few things in Falon's story that I really resonated with.
Okay,
So,
sure.
So she said when she met her spouse, she didn't like him at first.
No, she did not.
And
She
I
did
don't
not.
know if there's any people out there who, you know what, don't write people off too quickly because that may be your husband.
Oh, girl.
Yeah, because she met him she went to a friend's birthday dinner and she met him and she thought he was a bit
obnoxious.
Yeah, basically. But he pursued her, and he'd not long come out of a relationship as well.
An engagement.
It was an engagement.
He was engaged to a young lady. Yeah.
And we don't want to spoil it. Like we say on all our podcasts, we don't want to spoil it because we do want you to go and watch it. But the reason that their relationship ended was, questionable. So it not long come out of that relationship when he met Falon. So even his pastor was a little bit like,
that's too quick.
It is a little bit quick. But she said she had peace about it and that kind of thing, and they pursued what they pursued. And even when they were getting married, I think the ex-fiance came.
She reached out.
She reached out, didn't she?
My girl was brave.
Listen,
she reached out.
Falon she said she was there in the car with her I think he was a fiance
by that time.
Yeah, and she was like,
wonderful proposal.
Yeah, it was a beautiful proposal, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And then she was like, answer the phone, because he was like, oh look, it's my ex-fiance. Mm-hmm. And she's like, answer the phone, put it on speakerphone so that you could hear
the conversation,
what the ex had said. But I do think it's important to note sometimes we miss people, we miss our blessing for whatever reason.
Bad advice. Yeah, that's what with that one.
It was
bad advice.
And so she missed her blessings. So I think we all need to be very mindful who we take counsel from, and who we go to for advice. Because I know back in the day, and I would hope it doesn't happen now, but it might do. A lot of women didn't get married to people because there were people in the church who said, no, he's not for you, he's not.
One.
And
she's not the one.
She's not the one. He's not the one. Some of them had ulterior motives because some of them had that person. They wanted them to marry somebody else, or they wanted them to marry someone in their family. And so women have turned down people, and unfortunately, some of these women are still single today, living in regret because they listen to people. So please, be wise and get wise counsel. But as Tasha said, they were in a relationship. They had a baby as well.
Yeah, did. Yeah. Their son had just turned 1, I think.
Yeah, at the time.
And then he got in the car accident.
Died. And their son actually has cerebral palsy. Mm-hmm. And I think that's another part of the wait. When you're waiting to get married, you're waiting for a child. Yeah. Oftentimes we think, this is amazing. Look, I'm married now. I'm going to have my children and all that kind of stuff. So, she had a child who had a disability. And I think when we're visualizing or picturing our future and our love life, we don't ever
see these things. You don't plan for these things.
You don't. No. And we all know that all of these things are possibilities, and we have to know that we are strong enough in God and strong enough in ourselves that whatever things come our way,
that you'll be able to handle.
That's right.
The funny thing is that in your vows, well, for those who do the traditional vows, you speak about in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer. And I've always said, I don't want to say those vows because, child.
It's deep, But
I was watching something yesterday and the guy was basically talking about, for richer or for poor, it does not have to be in terms of finances. It can be your attitude, because it can get better. Or it can get worse. So I'm like, I never thought about it that way. But coming back to that, we just have to be careful because we think that we're going to have a normal life. And you're not thinking about the what ifs. Some of us don't marry for the what ifs, and that's why we get divorced. But that's something we'll talk about in the next one.
Definitely.
But we'll just focus.
Even with the vows, I think sometimes I do think, boy.
No, I'm not saying them vows. I'm saying.
Listen, I don't blame you. I'm not even going to lie. I'm not great with sickness, I'm really not great with sickness. But I have to say, this is why marriage is such a serious thing. Because once you go into that commitment, you've got to be serious. Steadfast. No matter what comes my way. This is it. This is it. So poorer, bankruptcy, lose a house, everything. And I think the difficult thing for me is that I've worked so hard in my life. I've got my things and whatever.
Yeah.
So then to get into a relationship and to say, okay, you are now the lead, or and I'm putting my trust in you, and what if you can't manage things? What if he messes up my credit? What if?
What
you know?
What
so
if?
so then vows are deep, but so they had a baby who had a disability, and they were encouraging each other and supporting each other through that. And as Tasha said, I think he just turned one, just had his first birthday.
Yeah.
And then she had...
And then she got a call to say, your husband you need to come to the hospital. Yeah. So, it's not good. Because they're not going to tell you the bad news over the phone. Yeah. Even though deep down you already know. Yeah. Even she called in her prayer warriors, everybody pray. Yeah. But when she got there, he'd passed away. Yeah. And there's a point in the episode where she talks about, just crawling up in her mom's bed. And that's where she stayed for... I don't know if it was days or weeks, and then God used that grief to birth her now ministry. Absolutely. So, Drina, bringing it all back to you now.
Here we go.
So we know a little bit about Falon and why we've decided to choose this topic today. So, how did you meet your then fiance?
So my fiance's name was Justin. And we met online, as a lot of relationships do. But it's really funny because we actually started dating and met online before internet dating even really became a thing. Okay. So we were kind of like the front runners of the
You were about that life.
Listen, I was one of them ones where we were like, my gosh, is this person really going to be a serial killer? I don't know if anybody remembers back in the day when people first started internet dating and you were like, who is this possibly that I'm meeting?
To a real
Absolutely. Person. So it was in the early days of internet dating. I met him on a website called Black Christian People Meet, which was very funny because he's actually white. He was on a black
I was wondering
inside.
When you said Justin, I was like, no, I don't want to be presumptuous.
Listen, there are some black Justins out there, big up the black Justins, but he was a white male, and he was actually from the States as well. So he was from Michigan too. So I am forerunner, internet dating,
and long distance,
distance as well,
interracial couple. Girl,
and
you're overachiever.
Listen, because them were the days when I was really like, I'm trusting God. So I really and we were young, so 24, 25 when we met. Okay. It was times when I had a lot of time. Like the way that our relationship developed, the way we used to talk and communicate, would never, ever, ever be able to do that now with a busy life and job and everything. Right. But at that time, we were just communicating for hours and hours and hours on end. And it's funny because he actually was born with one hand. So he had one hand and he didn't have a left hand. So when I first met him, not only was he white, he also had this disability. And I was like, this ain't for me. This ain't for me. But I was like, we can keep talking and what have you. But I was like, no, I just cannot see this relationship going anywhere. Because I was like, and at the time, like you do, I was just talking to other people and everything like that. And then, it just began to develop and develop and grow.
So it never fizzled out?
It didn't fizzle out, actually. And it just got stronger and stronger and stronger. And it got to the stage where, and bear in mind, as I said, we were talking for hours and hours and hours every day, video calls and everything. So we got to the stage where we knew we loved each other before we'd actually even met in person.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And I don't necessarily advocate for that, and I don't necessarily say that every relationship is going to be like that. Yeah. But the amount of time, effort that we were putting into it, and it was funny because he was living with his grandparents at the time, and his grandmother was like, "Who's that you're speaking to online? I hope you're not sending her money. I hope she's not a scam artist." So we were all getting those warnings, and obviously I had to, or I didn't have to, but I flew to America to meet him for the first time.
That's what I was about to ask.
Listen, so my mum was like, "My gosh, my daughter is going across the world to go meet."
Did you go by yourself?
I went by myself.
Child, you brave.
Listen, that is, I don't know how I'd feel if my daughter was to tell me something like that today.
I'd be like, I'm coming with you.
The thing. But at the time,
I'm your
I
wing
don't
woman
know.
at this point.
I don't know. I don't think it would be. It's not wise to do today, and I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. But I was a bit of a risk taker.
Yeah.
I'd found the person that I loved and wanted to spend my time with. So, but I'm not gonna lie. When I'm sitting on that plane, and as we're about to land, I'm like, oh my goodness, Lord, what am I doing? What am I doing, Lord Jesus? What? Because you know the nerves about being in person for the first time, and you're like, what
you're gonna say? Even though you've been talking all this time.
Because in person is different to
it is.
internet.
I think that's why a lot of people resort to texting these days.
Yeah.
It's easy to text.
It is.
Sometimes your thing is even prompting you what to say. So you just click a button and you send that.
Yeah.
But to have a one-on-one, a face-to-face conversation, that's different.
Absolutely. So as I'm flying and I'm landing in the airport, I'm like, what on earth? I'm not gonna lie, I was like, I need to just get on a plane and go back home because I don't know what I am doing here. And we made all these plans and we had all these ideas and all this kind of stuff. He was taking me out for my birthday and everything. And so it was something else. And to be totally honest, it wasn't a bed of roses when I got there because we're two different people. As when you're bringing any two people together, two different people, two different backgrounds, two different cultures.
Living in two different parts of the world.
And the thing with Justin is, and he was very open about his testimony. He was a Christian. He loved God, but he had lived a really awful lifestyle. So listen, the things that he'd got himself into, he was not a very nice person before God found him. Right. So there were some of those things that were still a little bit he was working through. The full transformation hadn't taken place. So there was still a couple of things that were left over from his previous lifestyle that he was still just trying to deal with and to work through. And then to have a woman come on board, and a woman of God, a woman of faith, who was calling him out on certain things and being like, no,
wasn't ready for that.
That's not going to work for us. But he also challenged me as well, because he was like, do you know what, Andrina, your mouth is very sharp. Sometimes you can be very spiteful and hurtful in the things that you say. And I was like, whoo.
Okay. You got to pull it back in.
Do you know? But it's nice that we were able to have that relationship where we were able to speak. But we argued, we fought. You know, there was a number of times when I was like, I can't see this relationship working. Because we'd spent so much time communicating with each other and talking, we'd really built a good foundation. So we knew
all
each
about
other.
the foundation.
So we knew each other and we knew each other deep down. So the stuff that we were working out was just kind of surface level, just clashes in personalities and that kind of thing. And when you're actually in a place with the person,
in the same space,
and getting to know them in that way.
So then, how long were you guys together before, like, he proposed?
So we were together for about a year before he proposed. But obviously it was a year long distance. So it's
still a bit different.
Yeah, it is a bit different to being together a year in person. But I went to Canada, so I was going to do a 6 months work exchange program in Canada. And I went in the September 98. No, not 98, 2008. No, I'm not. 2008. No.
I was trying to do the math here, like, what?
So I went September 2008. Now, as I said, he lived in Michigan, and Canada is borders Michigan.
On the border,
So I thought the reasoning or the logic behind it was we'll be close to each other, so we can get to know each other a little bit
even better,
see each other more. It was still a good few hours drive, but it was closer than 8 hours
taking
flight.
a plane.
So I went over there the September, and we were just kind of getting to know each other and that kind of thing from then.
All right. So then, when did you guys get engaged? You said.
So he proposed. So I was there in September 2008.
Did you do it the old time way where you asked your parents permission and all that
good
stuff?
He didn't. And I was a bit like, have you even asked my parents? But I know. And what the interesting thing about this, and I think it's something that we should really take note of, is I was having a relationship with this person. I knew him very well. But obviously, my parents didn't know him very well because he was in the States. I was then over there. So I was having this, and I knew him very well. I knew all his family. I'd stayed with his family. I knew his grandparents, his parents, that kind of thing. But my family was kind of removed from him, so they just didn't have the same kind. Even though they'd video call and they'd talk and whatever.
Yeah.
The plan was for him to come over to England
visit
at some point, but we just didn't get there. But yeah, so he didn't go and ask them first. To be honest, he didn't even tell his parents that he was going to do it either. Like, I thought they would all know, but he didn't know. He didn't tell them. They didn't know. And so it was February the 13th. Now, it was Friday the 13th. I am not superstitious, but I'm not going to lie. I have thought about this a lot. It's one of those things that lives rent-free in my mind, because obviously Valentine's Day is the 14th of February.
Yes, why not do it on Valentine's Day?
He was working. He was working, so he wanted to make it special, and he wanted to do something special. So he says, okay, we'll go out on Friday because I'm working on Saturday.
Okay. I
was like, okay, that's fine. But I didn't know that he was going to propose. So I was just like, okay, we're just going out for Valentine's Day.
Right.
He took me to a lovely little restaurant, and I was like, oh, where did you find this restaurant? What other girls have you taken here?
Oh no, Andrina, no, you did not.
I did. And the funny thing, right, he got really upset because he had taken somebody else there. So, but I didn't know, and I didn't know he was going to propose. So anyway, yeah, we got over it. You can just tell. He did talk about my mouth, didn't he? And I'm learning to temper it. I'm learning to pull it back. So yeah, and then he just got down on one knee, had the ring, proposed. Everybody clapped in the restaurant. I couldn't believe it.
Did you feel the pressure because you were now, public display? Everybody's looking.
Yeah.
What's she gonna say?
I had to say
did
yes.
you say yes because? Or did you really want to say yes?
I wanted to say yes.
Okay.
There have been other relationships that I've been in where I've been like, gosh, if you asked me, the only reason I'd say yes is because there'd be people watching.
But then when we get home, you'll be like, by the way,
honey,
here's the ring.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't want to hurt your feelings in public.
There have been some people like that. But no, with him, I was ready. And I think we all, when we're growing up, we're like, okay, by the time I'm 26,
yes,
I want to get married. So my age was 26. I wanted to be married at 26.
So it was all coming together.
It was all coming together, but it had not been coming together. So I had been hoping to meet somebody for a long time, and it hadn't happened, and I hadn't met people and whatever, and it was just really it was difficult because I was just like, I'm still single. And you get to 23, 24, 25. And now I look back thinking,
And you think, what's wrong with me?
Yeah. And now I'm thinking, boy, I'm 40 now. And I was thinking all the...
that's very young.
Yards. Yeah.
That's very young.
It's always been one of my things. It's always been like, I would really like to get married. So 26 was my age. And he came along and I was like, the amount of thank you, Jesus, thank you, God, because he is the person that I want. He is the person that I can see spending the rest of my life with. We get on, it just felt right. It just really, really felt right. So when he proposed, and I mean, we'd always talked about it, and we'd always like, when you propose to me, but I was not expecting it that day. So it was lovely. It was a really, really nice thing.
Okay. So you've now got the ring.
Yeah, I got the ring.
He put a ring on it. So you've now got the ring. Yeah. You're in all your element. Now you're planning your forever after, and then tragedy.
Struck. And to be honest, we didn't have long to plan. I don't even think I'd got my head around being engaged because he died a month later.
Wow.
Yeah, so he died on the 18th of March.
Wow.
No. Yeah, so 14th of February we went and got engaged, and he died on the 13th of February we got engaged. Yeah, and he died on the 18th of March, a month later. So the funniest thing is, so the ring was too big, so it got resized, right, and he died before I even got the ring back.
Oh my gosh.
So in terms of how it happened, he had a bit of a cold. So he was taking some cold medicine. He went out with his friends, and these were the friends I didn't like, by the way. I said he had some leftovers from the past. Yeah, yes. And he had a friend who was his kind of ride or die back in the day. So, and I was like, that friend don't mean good. You know what women are like.
Yeah,
Listen, Don't be, good. You need to stay away from him. He's my brother. No one's going to tell me. He's my brother. He's my brother. I was like, okay. So we went out with this friend and they were drinking. How much they drank, I don't know. They were drinking and then, and he went to bed at their house, and they tried to wake him up in the morning to say, it's time for work. Didn't get up.
That's it.
That was it. He was just gone. They called the ambulance. They couldn't do anything for him. His mum donated his organs. And yeah, that was it. He was just gone. And
Wow.
me, the Christian in me, was really upset that his organs got donated. Not because I didn't want other people to have his organs, but I was like, I believe in resurrection. I believe in the power of God. I could have gone and prayed for him and brought him back. And now there's no chance at all.
Gosh.
But that would have probably just been awful as well. So at this time I'm in Canada. So he's back in Michigan. I'm in Canada, and I haven't heard from him in the morning. And I'm like, that's not the usual. That's unusual. But because he'd gone out and he was drinking the night before, and we weren't on the best terms, because I'm like, I don't know what you're going out for and all this kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, I haven't heard from him, but he's probably just on one.
Yeah.
And it's just getting later in the day, and I was due to start work at 12 o'clock, and I'm like,
something's not right.
I just, so I was like, okay. So I called his phone, and a woman answered, and I'm like,
who is this?
Absolutely. So I'm like, who's this answering my man's phone? And she's like, Andrina, it's Aunt Becky. And I'm like, hi. Well, actually, no. First I said, is just in there. And she said, Andrina, it's Aunt Becky. And I'm like, okay. Is just in there. And she goes, I'm really, really sorry to tell you.
Oh, my God.
But Justin has died. When you're just like...
This feels like a movie at this point.
I wasn't computing. My brain wasn't computing what she was saying. So at first it wasn't going in. I was like, no. She's like, I'm really sorry. And she was quite firm with it. And I can just imagine how awful it was. They were probably all on the other line. On the other end with the family and stuff going. Sitting there. It's Andrina calling. Who's going to tell her? Who's going to tell her this? Gosh. So I love Aunt Becky, and I still.
And then you're in Canada. You're by yourself. Absolutely. You don't have anybody to
no support network, nothing. So I love his family to this day. We still talk, and I still stay in contact with them and I'm so grateful to Becky for doing that and being.
It's not the easiest thing.
No. And I was like, I screamed and I was like, you're lying. It's not true. And she's like, and I just, I was like, no, can't be true. It's not true. And she said to me, and I remember it clear as day, she said, Andrina, I wouldn't lie about something like this.
No, that's not
and
funny.
And when she said that, I was like, he's gone. And
did you break down? Or did you just sit with it for a bit?
I think I probably just sat and thought. I don't think I cried straight away.
Yeah.
Because it just wasn't real. It just didn't seem real.
Okay.
And I think what people, and I know you'll understand through going through grief, is that you've got this person that's there with you all the time, interacting with you all the time, talking to you all the time, for them to just all of a sudden
be gone. Forever. It don't make sense. It still feels surreal. It still does.
1 minute he is here and we are having conversations, and the next minute he is gone. And I used to for the longest time I still used to accidentally call people by his name, because he was the person I was always talking to. So you're like, just sorry, James or John or whatever. I did that for a long time, because he was your go-to person. He was the one person that I used to speak to. So yes. And then obviously the grief started. I was in Canada by myself. His family came and picked me up, drove me back. And then that was it. And then I was crying, and I feel it for that family, because I used to be in the bedroom and all they would just hear me is just sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. And they were dealing with their own grief, and they've got this crazy
to take care
from the UK.
Of. Oh no! So your family now. You are family.
But just crying and crying and crying, and they just couldn't. Honestly, I felt for them. Fortunately, my aunt flew over
Oh, bless her.
My Auntie Julie. Shout out Auntie Julie, thank you. Because my mum was, there was lots of things going on with my parents and stuff. But my auntie was free, so she flew over and she stayed and she supported me through that time. Because
that's what you need at that point.
I'm telling you, I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't, just the grief was just all consuming, as I'm sure you know. So so that was that, and and I was not gonna lie, I was angry with God. I was so vexed with God because I'm just like, hold on, I go through all this time being single, waiting, you bring somebody here that I'm like, yes, and now he's gone. I don't understand.
Where's the good in this?
Do you know
where's the good in this?
Absolutely.
And how do I still praise in this dark season?
I'm telling you. But do you know, worship was the way I got through. And I say that with all honesty. Like, I used to go in the room and I used to put on my headphones and I was playing music, playing worship music, crying, rocking backwards and forwards, saying, worship you anyway, God. You're so worthy,
listen,
Jesus.
girl.
God, I love you anyway. I don't understand. And that was it. Just that. Every day, and that's
how you got through.
Only way I got through that time, because I don't know if I would have been here, because I was like, all right, I'm ready. What am I here for now? And I know it sounds dramatic.
No, I've heard my dad say the same thing as well when my mom died. You know, like, I don't see the purpose in life anymore. So I kind of understand. You know,
honestly, and
what
I think
you're saying.
For me, the grief as well. So grieving it, I wasn't just grieving him as the person. I was grieving the future that we were going to have together.
Right.
I was grieving our kids that we hadn't had, that we've named and we talked about, and the life we were going to have, and the house and everything, and the family life we were going to have. Do you know? So when he went,
all together.
That's it. So when he was taken, all of that went with him. As well.
And you never know.
Yeah.
So that was a mouthful.
Yeah.
That was a mouthful. But in wrapping up, I'm going to ask you like two questions in one. Do you believe he was your soulmate? And are you done with love, or are you still looking for your happily ever after?
Those are deep questions. Do I believe he was my soulmate? It's two-part. I do believe he was my soulmate, but I don't believe there is just one person or one soulmate for everybody, because you know, people have free will. Absolutely.
When he knows that things like this will happen. Come on.
So he is one of the people, and don't get me wrong, I have loved since I've met him as well. I have got into relationships and loved people. But he was one of the people, one of those relationships that I do think back to. And it's difficult to not compare things to, even though it wasn't perfect, because we really, really had a good understanding and we really loved each other. And he was one of the few people that
you took the time to build that strong foundation.
And I knew that I knew. Even though we weren't even on the best of terms when he died, I knew that he loved me. And there was no doubt in my mind about the fact that he loved me. And it's a beautiful thing when you can just be secure in the knowledge that someone loves you, and that's what is a beautiful thing. And no, I haven't given up love. The 10-year anniversary was very, very difficult for me, because obviously when he died, I thought, you know what, okay, it's really hard time, but I will go on, I will love, I will get married, I will have children, and he will be somebody that I hold dear, but it won't be the be all and end all of my life. And obviously 10 years down, I'm still single. So I haven't moved on, I haven't got married, still in the wait. So, you know, once again, me and God had to have some serious words, because I was like, no, I wasn't expecting my life to be like this now, God. This wasn't supposed to be my life. But I am still waiting to be found. I'm putting myself out there.
That's a plug there, gentlemen.
Listen, anybody, hit me up. And don't get me wrong, I'm dating. So if you hear me say I dated or I'm dating or whatever, I'm dating people. I'm collecting data.
And there's a difference between dating and courting.
Absolutely.
All right, come on now.
I'm waiting for the courtship, gentlemen. Yes. Okay. But so I haven't given up on love. I'm still waiting and trusting God. And I just want to encourage all the single people, male and female out there. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's a hard slog to be like, my goodness me, I'm still waiting every day, trying to do my thing, trying to work on me, trying to really get myself ready for this person, and this person is not in sight. But I'm trusting God. And I read this thing the other day by David Burris. I don't know if any of you follow him. He has his tagline is permission to think differently.
Okay.
And one of his declarations recently was, every day is a day closer to meeting that special person. And I just thought, yes, do you know
that's
what?
Beautiful.
Every day we go through is a day closer to meeting that special person. I still trust God. I'm trusting God for all of you as well. And listen, I know that God is a healer. He healed my heartbreak. I'm here whole. So yeah.
Well, you've just answered the last question I would have asked about what advice you would give to those who were in the wait and now find themselves in grieving. But we do have a part 2 coming up, guys, because the wait is really serious, and heartbreak, sometimes it's evident.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because as long as you love, you will be hurt.
That's it. You've got
But
to
we
be vulnerable.
thank you, Andrina, for being open and transparent. We thank you guys for listening to Faith, Grit and Grace. And tune in next time for the second part, The Wait, when the wait turns to heartbreak. Bye.